Hey everybody, it's Jennifer Seven with Seven Company Weight Loss and Wellness Center, and welcome to our topic today, which is about stress and how stress can affect your weight loss. And more importantly, we're going to talk about sleep. Actually, sleep is a huge component of being able to successfully lose weight. I am so excited to have a friend and colleague of mine, Cheryl MIrabella, here today to talk to you. She has been in this field for many years. She has her own company, Living Whole Health, and has a lot of education and training to deal with all kinds of issues regarding eating, nutrition, weight loss, sleep, stress, and so much more. We'll touch a little bit more on some of that later. Welcome, Cheryl. Hi.
Hi, Jennifer. Good morning. It's great to see you.
Good morning. Is there anything else about your background you'd like to share with us today?
Sure. I obviously am a nutritional health coach, but my background before that was I have a master's in counseling and psychology. And so I really bring in the whole person with regard to the work that I do. So there's a lot of mental and emotional health work that I do in the classes and the teaching that I do. And I'm also a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I have my MBSR background. So I've been teaching mindfulness in the workplace, which is really my heart work as well. Really bringing mindfulness into really everything that we do, but it certainly affects our health and in a positive way when we can do more mindfulness work. So that's a little bit more about my background.
Awesome. And I did a session on mindfulness because Cheryl knows that I got my meditation certification and how very important mindfulness can be when you are eating and trying to lose weight. But today we're going to talk about sleep. So Cheryl, please share with us whatever you want to talk to us about sleep and how important it is and what the effects of not sleeping can be on your health.
Exactly. So when I teach this class in person, I always ask, how many of you are getting a good night's sleep? And sadly, maybe 2 out of 10 hands go up, or like 20% of the room. And it's shocking and scary because sleep is so critical to every system in our body. And lately I've been kind of geeking out a little bit on brain health. And there's a strong correlation between brain health with regards to memory, Alzheimer's, dementia, and things like that. We're also seeing a correlation between not getting enough sleep because during the hours of when we're really in those deep sleep, it's almost like our brain is getting cleaned, washed out of some of those plaques and things that are damaging. So that's a real important piece right now. A lot of people are looking at brain health, and since we have kind of an epidemic of brain health issues. But with regards to weight loss, it's also really important too.
So can I interrupt for just one second? So could you start with just defining what is a good night's sleep?
Sure, absolutely. So it is going to be a little bit different for everyone. But generally speaking, and just I think in general, it's just the 7 to 9 hours is the minimum that most people need. So you will find those people who say, I do great with 5 hours. But over time, that's probably not really true. That one can push through for a certain period of time, and but it catches up to you. And the thing is, there's no such thing as really catching up on our sleep. So we think, oh, I'll catch up on the weekend, but we really can't. So getting a good night's sleep now, and there are certain hours actually that are better. So I often tell my clients, if you're just in a really tough state, you're working really long hours and you have a long commute and you have kids to take care of, and maybe you're getting a graduate degree, so sleep is really challenging, that at the very least, if you're going to cut your hours short, get to bed earlier. Like try to get to bed between 10 and in the hours between 10 and midnight are super important to be sleeping. Okay. So try to get to bed by 10. And if you have to get up earlier, in the morning, cut your sleep short earlier. So get up an hour earlier in the morning.
Okay.
That's a better choice, because our body's on a 24-hour circadian rhythm, and certain things kick in at certain hours. And so it's really important in that 10 to midnight stage where our T cells for our immune system are happening, are being produced, and our digestion is beginning to happen, and all of our hormones are being regulated at certain hours throughout the night. So when we kind of stay up really late and don't get to bed till after midnight, our digestion is off, our hormones that regulate our appetite are off, all kinds of things. So start getting dysregulated.
Okay. Well, and I know, like, I rarely stay up past 10 because I just can't. But I wake up frequently throughout the night, either to get up, use the restroom, or I just wake up and I can't go back to sleep. So I'm assuming that means it's not really a good sleep.
Yeah. So this is true. There's being in bed for so many hours, and then there's getting deep rest. And so what I'm gonna do is go through some tips on what is preventing most of us from getting a good night's sleep, and then some tips on how to get around that or how to help with that, and see if we kind of hit most of the areas that most people can relate to.
Okay.
So one of the major things, well, this is kind of interesting because now we're in kind of a artificial type of lifestyle where we're not outside and we're not being exposed to the sun in the morning, and we're not necessarily getting our exercise then. But actually, that's one of the most important things you can do, is simply to get outside for 10 minutes in the morning and expose your eyes without sunglasses to some sunlight, because that starts your 24-hour circadian rhythm clock getting set correctly. So even if you can just go out for just 10 minutes and just go for a little walk around the block before you get into an office where you have artificial lighting, and or if you can do that at lunchtime. But if you can get into the daylight and get into the sunlight, even if it's an overcast day, it's still light that's hitting your eyes. So that is part of that circadian rhythm process that happens. So it kind of really starts the night before and getting to bed so that you can get up early enough to do that.
And that's just so funny that you should say that, because it makes me think of when you travel and the time zones are all different, that like the best thing to do is not just get there and go to sleep, but get up, get the sunshine, and then it helps you. You can kind of make it through the day and you reset onto the new schedule a little quicker.
That's right. So, so I always say to people that the sleep, actually, a good night's sleep, starts the night before, or a good day starts the night before. So some of the things that get in the way of a good night's sleep are, well, what do you think one of the number one things these days that is keeping all of us up too late at night?
Alcohol or TV?
Yeah, so those are definitely on the list, but actually our technology is really robbing us of a good night's sleep. And there's a couple reasons why. Well, first of all, the technology is very addictive. So, when we're looking at our screens, when we're looking on our computers or our phones or our tablets, that's a kind of a dopamine hit to our brain. It makes us like happy and excited, and even if it's bad news, it's like our brain loves information, right? It gets all excited, and you don't want to be getting excited before bed. You want to be calm, you want quiet. And so if you're on and you're getting news, even if someone's liking a picture on Facebook, it's still, your brain's like going ding, 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 ding. So it's kind of waking it up when you should be quieting it down. So you're getting the dopamine receptor sites of your brain all excited. The other really important part of that is that you're also exposing your eyes to the blue light that's being emitted from these screens. And that blue light interferes with the production of a very important hormone. Do you happen to know what that hormone is? Putting you on the spot here, Jennifer.
I don't, but I'm so interested in what you're saying, because I hear that, the blue lights are not good. I think
So it's melatonin. So
okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So our body produces melatonin naturally, and melatonin is a really important hormone to help us get into a deeper state of sleep. But even more important than that, melatonin is an immune-enhancing, immune modulator hormone. So it does far more than just help us sleep. So by having our melatonin levels at optimal levels while we sleep, there's also a lot of good things happening in our immune system during the night. So in old times, right, the sun would go down and our houses would be dim, and we would naturally produce tons of melatonin and be falling asleep at 8, 9 o'clock and then waking with the dawn. not happening anymore. So we have to kind of look around our house and say, how many lights do I have on? How much light is coming into my eyes? There are some glasses you can get that are specially made for if you have to be on your devices late at night, that kind of block out some of those more damaging blue lights so that you're still producing melatonin. So I can maybe—
And they're not gimmicks. They really
no,
work.
they're for real, and they're not cheap either. So
Okay.
and they look kind of funny. They're like a yellow hue to them.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
not suggesting that you do that, and to avoid going to bed. But if, say, you had to work on some kind of homework project for the kids, or some kind of late night something you had to do, you would have those on. And even if it's in the hours leading up to bed, like you want, your intention is to get off the screens by 9 if you're in bed by 10, but from 7 to 9 maybe you're on the computers. That would be a good time, especially this time of year where it's dark, to have those glasses on.
Oh, so I was going to ask you about how long should you be off your screen before you go to bed?
Ideally an hour, but 2 hours is even better.
Okay.
And so and this is what I call good sleep hygiene. So I used to work with 4 functional medicine doctors in their office for working with their patients. And that's what we called it, is good sleep hygiene. Just in the same ways that you have other hygiene, you want to be thinking about your sleep is that important as you would a shower, brushing your teeth, and everything else that we do. When we have children, we put them on a schedule, right? And we know that if they are not in bed, everybody's life is miserable the next day. It's much more visible in the kids. But for us, it's also really hard. When we don't get a good night's sleep, we're much more irritable. We're much more hungry. And I'll explain about that in a minute, because I know that's an important part of this call. So we want to get to bed at least, we want to get off the technology at least an hour more is better before bed. Okay. So that's one of the main reasons. You mentioned alcohol. So a lot of people are like, let's have a nightcap, that'll knock me right out, that glass of wine. And it does, but it actually causes disruption for you getting into a deeper sleep. So you might fall asleep fast, but it causes your cortisol levels to rise because of the sugar in the alcohol. And so you may be rising, which will wake you up. It also stimulates your bladder and your kidneys. And so it's not a good idea to do alcohol before bed. So if you want to have alcohol in small amounts, maybe with your meal, because it's always better to have alcohol actually on a full stomach anyway. So alcohol is another thing. Another thing is actually when we go to sleep in our bedroom, to make sure the room is absolutely dark. So we have so many, again, devices that are plugged in and blinking, and, outside light and night lights and all of these things. People fall asleep with their TV on in their room, and I've had clients say, well, my eyes are closed. Isn't that enough? But the light filters through our eyelids. They're not, completely blackened, right? So, and any amount of that light does not allow us to drop into that deeper restorative sleep. So you want absolutely dark. So if you have outside lights, get room darkening shades. If you can't control the light in your environment, just get a little silk eye mask and put that on. Because a lot of times people have partners that need a night light, or they need, they're reading or something. And, so just put on a little eye mask. I always travel with one. And then the other aspect is noise, right? So noise, because we have sleep cycles. So throughout the night, we have different sleep cycles. So what happens is sometimes when we're in the higher sleep cycle, we'll wake up. That's when we wake up. So if we're uncomfortable in our bed, if we're not warm enough, if we're too cold, too hot, if we have to go to the bathroom, if there's a slight noise outside, then we'll wake up. What we want to do is get into a deeper sleep and stay there. So alcohol is going to pick us up. Noise is going to pick us up. Worry is going to have us, our busy minds will maybe wake us up. So what we want to do is make sure that our room is comfortable, quiet, dark. So I mentioned the darkening. So earplugs or white noise can help with, noise that if it's an airport or dogs barking or trashmen that come early or whatever it might be. Now, obviously, if you have little babies at home, you're listening for them. We're not going to have earplugs in, right? But if that's the only reason, everybody else can put the earplugs in if they need to, or have a little white noise machine that kind of creates an ambient.
I have a white noise machine and I love it. And actually, someone just gave me it's a little sound machine where you can play different sounds. I don't know what you think about the ocean or the little river flowing. Is that good, or stick with white noise?
I kind of steer people away from any water sounds at bedtime.
Oh yeah, make you wake up.
Water, the dripping.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
So, everyone's different, but for me, if I hear water running, I'm going to be running to the bathroom.
That's so true. That's a really great point.
So, just there are some wonderful sounds, but I prefer just the white noise that doesn't, because even those other sounds kind of, then it's quiet and then it's noisier and quiet, and that can be, whereas white noise is just calming. And so, even a fan might have white noise for you, but these little white noise machines you can get at Walmart. They're very inexpensive. I actually have professional ones that I kind of like, that little bit more steady noise, but any of those are good. Okay. Some other things that affect our sleep at night are if we go to bed too full or too hungry. So we want to stop eating. Again, so many hours before bed, right? For weight loss, for just so that we don't get indigestion. So say you ate super early because you got home and you were hungry and you ate at 5 and now you're not going to bed till 10, that's 5 hours. You might be a little hungry, and you don't want to go to bed hungry because you won't get a good night's sleep. For any of us who've ever gone to bed hungry, we know that you're just tossing and turning all night. But you also don't want to go to bed full. You don't want to be eating the wrong foods before bed. So, a little tiny snack of maybe some sort of healthy carb. Like I would sometimes make a tiny little bit of oatmeal, like maybe just a tiny little, a whole grain, or if I had some cooked whole grain, like a little bit of something like that, or a little bit of some peanut butter with like a little bit of apple or pear or banana or something like that. So very like a spoon of some yogurt, like you don't have to fill yourself up. You just want to get rid of the hunger pains.
Right, just a little something on there. And what we usually tell our clients is try not to eat after 8. And a lot of our clients are on this low carb program, but they can have a protein snack before they go to bed. There's a whole variety of things, but just like you said, a snack before bed so that they're not starving.
Yes, something very, very tiny, just so that, and it doesn't take much to get rid of the hunger pains, right? But you also, like you said, if you're going to bed at 10, don't eat past 8. Even earlier probably is better, right? But a lot of people are home till 7 by the time, so we understand, working in the DC metro area, it can be intense. Traffic,
exactly.
But I'm sure you're also telling them to have that be one of the smallest meals, right? So they eat more earlier. Well, I don't know.
On this specific protocol, it's all very calculated, so they know what they can have.
Okay. So also be careful what you eat, and of course you're guiding them in that direction, but nothing really spicy, nothing too heavy, anything that's going to aggravate you once you go to bed. So that can affect you. Okay, so caffeine, right? So everyone is different with regards to their sensitivity. I've heard people say, I can take a double shot of espresso and go right to sleep. But if you gave me a cup of decaf at like 2 o'clock, that would keep me awake. Wow. So, and that's a genetic thing, actually, that different people have different, like, I don't know if you've taken any genetic tests, but, on 23andMe, when I took it, it told me that I'm a slow caffeine a detoxer. So it takes my body longer than most to get rid of the caffeine in my system. And so I'm really careful about caffeine, and if I would not have it past noon, because it takes on average 8 hours to clear your system. But for me, double that. Yeah. So, and here's the other thing about caffeine is it actually is also a bladder irritant. So you can have a cup of coffee in the morning, and it could have you up at night going, yeah. So try that out. So I always tell my clients, they were like, are you kidding me? I had 1 cup of coffee at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. How is that affecting my sleep at night? I'm like, it actually irritates, it's a bit of a bladder irritant. And so it can make your bladder a little bit more susceptible to needing to get up at night.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's really, I mean, I knew that. I try not to drink coffee after two for sure, but you do notice that when I have a cup of coffee, then I'm usually heading to the
Yeah.
restroom not too long afterwards,
And let's not forget, caffeine is in tea, just our regular tea you
right?
might get out at lunch. The black tea, the green tea, all of them will activate your bladder. And what else activates our bladder is just hydration, right? So just try to be sure you're hydrating early in the day, especially in the winter. So we sometimes don't drink enough during the day, and our thirst response will kick in at night, and we'll try to make up for it at night, and we'll be drinking a lot of water right before bed.
Okay.
And I've been guilty of that. So again, just make sure that you're drinking, hydrating, getting 2 big glasses of water as soon as you get up in the morning, more throughout the day. Try to get your, and generally speaking, the guidance on this, and that I give my clients, I don't know what you share, but about half your body weight in ounces is a good number.
Yeah, ours is recommending 64 ounces a day,
Yeah.
pretty much, and that's a good point. Don't save it all up to 8 o'clock at night.
And here's the other thing that some people don't realize is that as we age, we actually lose the thirst response. So
Really? Huh.
yeah, and so we may not actually feel thirsty. And so, with especially if you have elders in your life, you just want to make sure they're hydrating, because they're not noticing that they're thirsty until they're really dehydrated, and it might just be that they feel lethargic. So yeah. So let's see, did I cover everything? Oh, nighttime exercise can be kind of overstimulating too. So again, I know that sometimes people, that's the only time they can get it in, but that can kind of riv you up. So again, I've had clients say it works for me, but we're all unique. So I'm not going to say these are guidelines. And so if you are working out at night and you're getting a great night's sleep, then ignore what I just said. But if you're trying to figure it out, you might just look at these factors and say, oh, I started this nighttime running or whatever, and all of a sudden I wasn't sleeping as well. So, these are just some things to look at. I don't like to say this is absolute for everyone, but in the sleep research I've done, and in the thousands of clients that I've worked with, this is what we figured out, and for my own experience as well. I think I don't know that I mentioned when I talked about the actual bedroom sleeping temperature, I mentioned too hot or too cold, but we actually sleep better with a cooler room. So the good temperature is like no more than 68 for sleeping. So winter or summer, we want to keep our room cool. And if it means more blankets, or that's fine, but a room that's too hot, we don't get a good restorative sleep.
And I think for us women who are maybe in our middle years, and we're hot all the time, so I definitely like a cool bedroom.
Yeah, so that's really healthy to sleep in a cooler bedroom, or even if you can sleep, even in the winter with a little bit of the window open.
Yes.
Not too noisy, just to get a little fresh air is not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. One little story from my childhood is just that my dad, he had a sliding glass door off the master bedroom, and he would turn the heat off, and he had that door open, and we were cold. Well, we had lots of blankets. But I grew up with that, so I really am used to that and prefer that cool air.
Yeah, and it's you don't want it too cold or too hot, because we've all been where we're too cold, like camping or something, and you're like,
Can't sleep, right? Because you're too cold.
Right? So let's see, we covered nighttime exercise, alcohol, room temperatures, late afternoon caffeine. Oh, what I didn't mention was we talked about light, the right snacks, sharing your bed. So sometimes, we're sleeping with someone who's more restless, or snoring and that sort of thing. And again, that's where we need to protect ourselves with the eye mask, or the ears, and, whatever you need to do, and there are people who sleep in separate beds, for that reason. And there's no shame in that. If you're really not getting a good night's sleep with your partner, to have your time together, but to maybe sleep in separate rooms. And I'm not necessarily advocating for one or the other. I'm just saying that sleep is important. And, if your partner is a heavy snorer and that's keeping you awake because you're a light sleeper, that's something you have to negotiate. So,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So the biggest other thing that I think I hear from most of my clients is worry, right? So, busy mind, they're worrying, they're kind of running the hamster wheel in their mind all night, solving problems and such. And this may sound super simplistic, but I'm going to make some recommendations on how to deal with the busy mind. So number one, and I kind of laugh because I've done this myself, and I just kind of laugh at what comes out on the paper. But if you're noticing that your mind is racing at bedtime, just write down the things that are on your mind. That, like, it might just be something you want to be sure you don't forget. Like, I'm really good with a calendar system. For me, everything goes in a calendar, even if it's something simple like change your oil or whatever. So that has been super helpful for me to just put everything in a calendar. But if something suddenly pops in, oh, I got that recall in my car, and now I'm like, oh, I need to handle that, and you're in bed, just jump up, write it down, like have a little something by your bedside and write down anything that you're thinking about, not solving it in that moment, but just so that's out of your brain, so it's just kind of brain dumping. So if you get in the habit, like I get in the habit of trying to do that at the end of my work day, just like, what are the things that are coming up tomorrow? What do I need to worry about?
Me too.
Just get it out there, whether you put it as a calendar alert or a reminder or just a list that you need to look at, and you'll deal with it then. You're not going to do
and I've gotten, so I use the Notes app on my phone, and that really helps me. It's like, just, okay, because your phone's almost always with you. I just make a little Notes app, and then it's like, okay, it's there, and I know where to go. I knew I needed to do something, but what was it?
Yeah, and I laugh because I've been like, busy mind, and then I write it down. It's like, change the oil in the car, really? Like that's So, I mean, I laugh because sometimes it's the smallest thing that's actually up there. Like, what do I have to remember? What was it I was trying to do? Mm-hmm. So just do a little brain dump before bed. The other things that are super helpful is, again, kind of the nighttime routine. So as we quieting things down, dim the lights, soft music. You might use, I'm noticing you have a aromatherapy thing behind you there.
Yeah, my diffuser.
Diffuser, aromatherapy thing. So you could get essential oils and diffuse that in your environment of lavender or other relaxing oils like that. But lavender is a really good one. And there's some nice combination oils that might say peace or sleepy time or something like that. There are herbs that are really calming. Now they come in a tea form, but then we're back to the consuming of liquids, right? Mm-hmm. So if you do the tea like right after dinner, like say you're eating 7 or 8 and then you drink a chamomile tea or a sleepy time tea, or there's some really nice traditional medicinals and yogi teas make some really beautiful herbal formula teas that have like 4 or 5 different herbs that work in synergy. So I really like to start with the herbs because our body doesn't produce herbs. And so there's no problem with drinking some gentle herbal teas. But there is also a supplement. Can I recommend a supplement here?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, one that I like is called Deep Sleep. And the company is called Herbs Etc. You can get it at Whole Foods or online. And it has the same combination of gentle herbs like lemon balm and poppy seed and chamomile and lavender that you get in the tea, but it's in a pill form. So it's like, it's later, and you don't want to drink the tea.
The liquid.
So, yes. And what I noticed with that is that, again, remember I talked about our sleep cycles, when we, instead of coming up and waking up, it keeps us into a deeper sleep.
Okay.
That works really well.
I'm going to try that, I think.
Yeah, so that works really well. And so the other supplement that I sometimes use myself, and smaller is better, is melatonin itself. And I get the smallest dose you can get is 0.5 milligrams, and that actually Trader Joe sells it in a chewable. And I take that when I'm going through periods of not sleeping as well. And, I could go on and off of it as I need it, or if I'm traveling or adjusting to time zone or something, or in a strange environment, usually I'll take it with me. And you just take that right before bed. And, but a lot of times I see people taking like really high doses of melatonin, and I'm not comfortable with that because our body produces melatonin. And if we start supplementing with high doses, our body could start to reduce the amount it produces naturally.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's why I always say start with the herbs, because our body doesn't produce those, right? So that can't affect our hormone production. And then if that's not working as well, you can add in the melatonin in the smallest possible dose, and then go off it if you find that because sometimes it's just like a mental thing. Oh, I didn't sleep last night or the night before. I need to sleep tonight. take a little gentle something like that. And then once you notice you're sleeping again, try to go off of it if you can.
Okay,
And you don't
great.
feel dramatic on or off. It's not like a sleeping pill, which.
Okay. Cheryl, I'm going to just ask you to just now dive a little bit into what happens when you don't sleep regarding your weight loss or trying
Yeah,
to lose weight, because
so
just
what happens
watching the
when
time a little bit, I
we,
don't want to run over.
so we have two hormones. One is called ghrelin and one is called leptin, and they regulate our appetite. And so if we don't get a good night's sleep, which one is it? I always get them confused. Ghrelin is the hormone that is responsible for increasing our appetite, and leptin is the one that says we're full. And when we don't get a good night's sleep, they're dysregulated. So you could get up and you're like eating breakfast, but then like you're still like wanting to eat and wanting to. It's almost like the light doesn't come. You eat, and instead of the light switch going down, like good, I'm satiated and satisfied. It doesn't. So there's an actual hormone dysregulation that happens when we don't get a good night's sleep. You might also notice that you're a little bit more stressed. And so you're going to reach for more carbs and things that calm you down, sugary things to pick up your energy, simple carbs to pick up your energy, caffeine, right? So you get in this whole bad cycle of reaching for all the wrong foods because you're exhausted and you're irritable. You're more irritable. And the same thing that someone said to you yesterday, you were fine with and you could deal with. And now today you're grumpy and you're irritable and you can't quite focus and figure things out as well. And so you're again, so a lot of bad things happen, right? We're more grumpy, we're more irritable, we're reaching for foods to both calm us emotionally and fill us up because we're not, that's dysregulated. And that's a real thing. So those are some of the things that really affect our ability, because if we're irritable and grouchy, we're going to reach for the wrong foods, right? And if we're not feeling full, we're going to continually reach until we're full. And we may not ever get to that satiating point.
Because the hormones are just messed up.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, would that cause you to wake up hungry?
I'm not maybe, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. But the point of it is that when you do eat, you're not feeling that fullness.
Correct.
So the body's like looking for more and then you overeat.
Correct. Okay. So normally when we eat, we have a hormone that then switches off and says, okay, I'm full. I've eaten something. And then you're good for a number of hours, right? Until you eat again. But when you have not slept, those hormones are not doing what they're supposed to do. And that was fascinating when I learned that. I'm like, that makes so much sense, because I know when I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm kind of like blindly reaching for the wrong things.
Something to just help you get going.
Yes, help you get going and just to make you feel better, because you just don't really feel great when you're around.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a bad night's sleep, because the next day you're just dragging
and you can't focus, and you're not clear-headed and you're not making good decisions. And if you're pumping out more cortisol because you're more stressed, and if you're pumping out more cortisol, the stress hormone, then you're going to need more glucose, right? Because that's telling your body to run from danger. And so your body's dumping more glucose into your system. And that's going to make you crave what? More sugar, more simple carbs. So it's really counterproductive for the program that you're on, right? Your membership is on. It's going to make it much harder to do a good job.
Very counterproductive. Very counterproductive. And I think you mentioned that you can't make it up. When you aren't getting that good night's sleep, it's not like you can sleep 15 hours the next night and you've made it all up.
And the thing is that in the long run, what a lot of people do who aren't sleeping, what they do is they push through it with a lot of caffeine and sugar. And eventually that really wears down your adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys. That eventually really wears you down. I've seen a lot of clients with adrenal fatigue, and they're having a hard time functioning, which then affects your whole endocrine system, your thyroid. So we really have to look at sleep as a critical piece of our health, and a critical part of our weight loss, and a critical part of our mental health and our emotional health and our brain health. It's not something to just poo-poo and say, I'll catch up when I have time. It's a priority. And I don't know about you, but especially when I'm trying to take care of my overall health, if I don't get a good night's sleep, the idea of getting up and taking a walk, going to exercise, preparing healthy food, shopping for it, cleaning up all the things that it takes to be a healthier person takes more energy. Now, we have more energy when we're doing all those things, right? But if we aren't getting good night's sleep, the next day all of those things are 10 times harder.
Right. That makes so much sense. Yes, you're just trying to make it through the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
So do we have any more time? Because there's one or two other tips that I had about.
Go for it. We got another minute or two, a couple minutes.
So we both mentioned mindfulness, and which includes meditation. So there's some wonderful that is very, very helpful, is to begin a meditation practice to quiet your mind throughout the day. And you can also do that meditation practice at night before bed. There's also a wonderful app that I absolutely love. It's called Insight Timer.
Yes.
And it has, I don't know what, 30,000 free guided meditations in there. And there are some for sleep. Now, I did say we don't want the technology around, that we're watching, but if you, maybe have a Bluetooth or even just your phone away from you at night. By the way, I want to mention that you don't want to sleep with the phone near you or next to your head or next to your bed. Try to get it as far away as possible. If you could have like the phone in another room and the Bluetooth playing, then it'll go off. You can have it on sleep mode. And there's meditations for sleep. And they're wonderful. So they can kind of just talk you into sleep. It could be a body scan, yoga nidra, or just a sleep meditation. So you can look up in this app, sleep meditations, and everywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, they'll come up in many, many choices. And you find the voices and the people that you like, and that can be super helpful. So guided meditations, your own quiet sitting meditation practice where you just, a body scan, you could do it in your own bed where you kind of just start at your head, go all the way to your feet, just kind of naming each body part, and, and that can put you to sleep. And then soft belly breathing is one that's really powerful, because that gets us out of that sympathetic nervous system, which is that activation of our fight and flight response. I'm not going to sleep tonight. Oh my God, my whole day is going to be ruined. I have so much to do tomorrow. Just do the deep belly breathing where you breathe in slowly through your nose, extend your belly. And when the breath goes into the lower part of your lower lung lobes, that sends a message to your brain that you're no longer in fight and flight. So just 2 or 3 of those. When you wake up in the middle of the night and your mind is racing, what I like to do is the belly breaths, and also a sweet little mantra, little words I tell myself, like I'm happy, safe, and calm. All is well in my world. I'm sleeping well. So you just tell yourself these things instead of, oh my God, and you look at the big clock with the huge cover. Don't look at your phone. Don't even bring that in. For all you know, you've just fallen asleep. You have another 6 hours to go back to,
Right. Isn't that's so the worst is when you wake up like 15 minutes before you're supposed to get up and you're like, no.
Yes. So make sure you don't have a clock with lights on. You don't look at a clock. Everything's darkened. Cover everything. You're in a tomb. A nice, quiet, peaceful, sweet,
Dark, cool. Oh, that's so awesome. Cheryl, this has been really amazing information about sleep, and I really appreciate it. I wanted to share with you all that Cheryl has a website. It's www.livingwholehealth.com. And she has so many wonderful classes that she teaches, so much information to share. She was mentioning earlier about brain health, and we know how bad it is right now with the dementia and Alzheimer's. So to learn how to eat better for your brain. Anything else you want to share about that class, Cheryl?
So I have that coming up. I also have a class coming up on food as medicine for mental health, so for anxiety and depression.
Okay.
I have a cleanse that's kicking off in January. So I have a lot of different things going on, but I have a lot of things, especially around mindfulness, mental health, brain health, but using food for those sorts of things. So so you can just go to my website, like you mentioned, livingwholehealth.com. I also active on Facebook. I have my Facebook page is also Living Whole Health, and you can see the different classes that I offer. They're all via this platform, Zoom, since I'm living out west nowadays, out in the great mountain west of Utah. So yeah.
That's so awesome. She's got a class on reducing inflammation, which I know is so important for so many people nowadays. A lot of just wonderful, wonderful things that you can learn. And gosh, I'm just so appreciative because this has been amazing. And I'm going to try out a bunch of these tips. I think the silk mask would definitely be a good one for me. Too much light in my room, and trying to avoid looking at that phone in the middle of the night when I wake up, which I do sometimes. And then you're off in phone land.
Yeah. It is addictive. So our part of our brain that likes, happy, feel good chemicals, gets lit up. So it's no wonder we're all reaching for it. I actually teach a class in digital detox.
Oh, wow. That's one. That's a good one. Well, thank you
Yeah,
again so much for sharing all this information. And hopefully we'll have you back on. We've got so many more topics we could cover.
I would love it. It's so good to see you. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl.
Bye.
Bye.